Energy companies across the country working to restore power after the storm sparked outages, like Adam said, for nearly 1 million customers. But how long is it going to take to get everything back up and running?
Our next guest is a spokesperson for Duke Energy, which provides power to 7.4 million customers in the Carolinas, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and Florida. Jeff Brooks joins us now. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Which have the hardest hit areas been when it comes to power outages? And give us a timeline on when you expect the lights to be turned back on.
Well, yesterday was an evolving day. We saw a lighter than expected number of outages at the start of the day, a lot of sleet mixed in with the freezing rain, which helped to reduce those accumulations and provided a little bit of benefits, especially from, say, Charlotte over toward the Triangle. But what we began to see as the afternoon progressed was a spike in outages west of Charlotte, kind of in the mountains, down in the upstate of South Carolina, Asheville area, Hendersonville. All these areas began to see large amounts of freezing rain as a second wave of moisture came through, and that drove a significant number of outages. We had at one point more than 50,000 customers out in that general area, which is a lot for where that is. We're looking at about a little less than 1,000 individual outage locations that'll have to be repaired. Our crews have been out as long as it's been safe to do so. So we did get a little bit of progress last night after the peak around 9:30. And today will be a really tough day, working very hard in some challenging geography, in some challenging ice conditions to get everybody back restored.
Jeff, you mentioned pre-positioning. How challenging was it to pre-position crews from other states? Because let's face it, this storm covered most of the country. Those states themselves are dealing with the storm too. And those crews, by and large, I would imagine, had to stay in the states where they originate, so they couldn't help you out like they would in a normal storm. How challenging was that, Jeff?
Well, that's right. You know, we had this storm impacting a lot of the East Coast. This was a testament to our mutual aid agreements, the agreements we have with other utilities, with other contractors. We were able to secure crews from over 40 states, so crews from here and there, places we could get. And we used our damage modeling to figure out the right places to place them around North and South Carolina so that they could be put into play. We also leveraged the size of our utility. We have crews in Florida that are Duke Energy crews and contractors that were not in play in this storm that we were able to move ahead of the storm to put them into place. And they're familiar with our system, familiar with our crews. So it was a great way to integrate those into our system along with the crews we were able to get. And again, that is probably the biggest change from the early 2000 ice storms, is that ability to cooperate and leverage resources around the country, even when they're in play as well.
Jeff, if you have power now, has the threat of losing it already passed, or should people still be concerned?
You know, I think largely if you're in the central part of the state, most of that has passed. We may see the odd outage appear here and there, but the interesting thing about ice storms is you can have the sun come out the next day and still see outages accumulate. And that's because if the weight of that ice sitting on the power lines is still there, you know, if you have 1/4 of an inch or more of ice and that limb comes down, it weighs about 30 times what it weighed without the ice. So we could still see some outages, especially in the mountain areas where you've got a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees. And that's always the discomforting thing, you know, when you're sitting at home and you hear that crack and a limb comes down. That'll continue for a few more hours as well.
For those that are watching us on their phone, their iPad, plugged into a generator somehow, how much longer before everybody gets their power restored, or is it too soon for you to tell, Jeff?
Well, we brought in a total of about 18,000 line and tree workers, considering local crews and the crews from out of state. So those resources will all be available and leveraged. But the reality is we're still looking at more than 800 outage locations that have to have a crew go, fix a broken pole or a broken line, and often in difficult terrain, rural areas, places that are hard to access. We've got a lot of technology, a lot of resources, but it's going to be a tough couple days at least as we work these outages and try to get these final little less than 50,000 customers back up.
Yeah, and the top ice total, 1 inch in Oxford, Mississippi. So when it comes to what that can do to power lines, we are all learning that it can be very damaging. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
as you
Jeff.
continue this work to get the lights back on. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
আমি থাকি দূর প্রবাসে, আমার বন্ধু থাকে ওই না দেশের। দুঃখে পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে, পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে। দেখতে দেখতে বছর গেল চইলা, আমার বন্ধু গেছে আমায় ভুইলা রে। দুঃখে পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে, পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে।
বন্ধু আমার থাকে দূর প্রবাসে, ওরে 5 বছরে একবার আসে রে। ভালো লাগে না একা ঘরে, ভাল লাগে না রে, ভালো লাগে না একা ঘরে, ভাল লাগে না রে।
সামনের মাসে আসবো রে বাড়ি, তুমি কইরো না আড়ি রে। বুকটা ফাইটা যায়, কষ্টে বুকটা ফাইটা যায় রে, ফাইটা যায়, কষ্টে বুকটা ফাইটা যায় রে।
আর দিও না মিথ্যা মিথ্যা আশা, আমি বুঝা গেছি তোমার ভাষার। বন্ধু দেশে আসার কোনো দরকার নাই রে, দেশে আসার কোনো দরকার নাই রে।
আমি থাকি দূর প্রবাসে, আমার বন্ধু থাকে ওই না দেশের। দুঃখে পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে,
পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে।
দেশে
আসার কোনো দরকার নাই রে,
দেশে
আসার কোনো দরকার নাই।